Today is August 29, 2021, and we're going to continue our discussion on the Desiderata Extinctionati. Our agenda today is I put a suggestion to see if we can discuss kind of a strategy to get how to get Jordy Spencer and Jeff Hall on board on the Desiderata. And I gave a few suggestions, but I'd also want to hear from everyone. So currently, right now, Risa and A, we're all and I were kind of collaborating. Risa and A, from what I've seen in the emails, they've been watching Jeff Hall's the Jejun Institute and in Bright Axiom. So they've been doing their research, and yeah, we're at a point where, well, I've been in communication with Spencer, and I think he's the best bet to get in contact with Jeff. But I still feel that Spencer isn't fully convinced, or he still needs some guidance or some goading. I know Jordy, he's going to be tough to crack, and yeah, so just wanting to hear from you all.
So you sent him a request for the IP, right? That we would license the IP. Well, if he didn't actually continue with the Latitude Society, and we just try and help him.
Do you think? We haven't done that yet, because I feel that if we do ask him, they're gonna just say no, or I don't know. Or should we? You think it's just best to, I know you gave those three options, right? The ones, and so whichever one they'll go for. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that is really what I ask. The other thing I've got to suggest is, if you look at the Jejun.org, I think is the website, where they have everything that Jeff Hull has done, and all the way up to Signal. And I think the pages on the Latitude Society, there's another woman who's an art director. I can't remember what her name is, but I think it might be Thacker or something like that. But she also did a lot of the events and the kind of happenings at the Latitude Society. So I thought it might be worth trying to contact her.
Yeah, I was doing some research on her too, and got a little background. I think I sent in. I said that she's currently working with Disney, but she has worked on other projects.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah,
projects. Yeah, but yeah,
but
still don't know how to approach
we
her.
could ask her if maybe just a direct approach. Just say, does Jeff Hull have an agent, or how does he operate? Does he have an agent or assistant? Because we want to ask him, basically those three things. Say we really want to license all the stuff you've done, and ask who owns all the. We assume that Jeff Hull owns all the intellectual property for Jejun and for the Latitude Society and for Signal, and we want to license it. So who do we contact?
Okay.
Because we can't get through to Jeff.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Hugh, because that was one of my questions, is whether we should just do the direct approach, or we should do more connecting in terms of aligning or making them understand where we're coming from. But at this point, if we're short on time, yeah, maybe the direct approach would be beneficial. Because I wasn't sure if you wanted us to share those three options with just the people surrounding Jeff Hull, or if those are things that are directly just for him and his agent. to know?
It's up to you, but yeah, I think we are running out of time. We've got to move on to find other people if we can't get these people. Are you looking at Meowwolf as well?
Yeah, I'm looking at a few people out there. They're just also hard to get in contact with, but I'm trying to see who would be more aligned to our project, because they seem to be this Meow crowd. Um, they're different. They're a different group too, with their own ideas and mindsets. So yeah, it's hard to find which. I think I'm being cautious because we've hit Jordy and Darren was tough, and yeah, I guess so. I'm just trying to find people who'd be more aligned to what we're doing. Yeah, doing more research on that.
It's difficult. Yeah, you've got to either kiss a lot of frogs or otherwise basically spend a lot of time, give one a lot of time and attention. I think it's between those two options. But yeah, there's also that ARG. There's the ARG subreddit on Reddit, and those guys are doing stuff like that. I just posted one on XRMed where those guys, yeah, those guys are fully fledged. You know, talking about using chaos magic for culture change and stuff, and they seem pretty well aligned. Whoever those guys are, it was the something 23, whatever the 23 Secret Society. I presume it's something to do with Robert Anton Wilson and those guys. They were all about 23. But they said it was probably the longest running ARG on the web. And so, yeah, those guys might be worth exploring.
All right, great. Yeah, I guess what I'll do is kind of spread, just yeah, do another direct approach to a few people here and there, and let's see who'll catch the bait. I think that, yeah.
What's the lockdown status in LA? Because I mean, a lot of this stuff is, you know, networking is done at parties and stuff like that. It's very much about which parties you get invited to, and so I wondered if there are any kind of events or anything that you could attend, or is everything completely kind of dead at the moment?
No, there. I'm being cautious on that too, but there are starting to have these events and parties, and yeah, yeah. I'll see what's out there.
In London, nobody gives a crap anymore. It's like it's business as usual. So
Right.
I'm not really sure what it's like down your way.
Yeah, it's almost similar, I'd say, but yeah.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm a little bit nervous about socializing. I just, I'm really, you know, staying on the boat a lot, not going ashore much, because there are a lot of tourists, and they're like, it's like, I don't trust it at all. Yeah. Anyway, we've probably only got like another 5 years or so to go.
Hugh, just on that, just because you mentioned magic a minute ago, you know, back when we mentioned Lionel, and you said he was into magic, and I made the comment I'd like him to talk about that, but I realized I meant kind of metaphysical magic, not legerdemain. You know, what is he actually into? Do you know?
Neuro-linguistic programming, chaos magic. Actually, the same thing as that ARG, that the ARG repost that I did. It's basically that he spends
Oh, okay. No.
He spent about 6 months doing a wizard's. I think it was one wizard spell. He spent 6 months doing it. 6 months of
Oh, okay.
intensive
So
training. So
it's the real
it's quite
thing. Yeah,
esoteric.
yeah. I thought maybe I got it totally wrong, but it's the real thing. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, he's written a lot of books on magic and stuff, and with a K.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, all those guys are into Eros and Chaos. I think it's really cool stuff, but it gets you branded a Satanist very quickly. So,
Oh,
it gets very difficult with the Christian crowds. You know, as soon as they get a whiff of that. But it's yeah, I was
no,
led
but
this week on this kind of path to Burning Man and all of the hidden stuff behind Burning Man and
yeah.
how they're all Satanists in Silicon Valley. And I took it for granted that everybody knew that, but apparently to some people it's greatly shocking. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, it's just the way it is. That's how Silicon Valley is. All those guys
Oh,
Burning Man, they all the CIA is there, and it's all LSD, and it's all a big
yeah.
psyop. But I thought everybody knew that. I didn't know that this was a great revelation, but that's what I learned this week.
Well, the
But
thing is,
anyway,
some of that magic can be very powerful stuff, and also even stuff like you put up there with that Crocodile Dundee hypnotizing the bull. I mean, people can really do that. That's not just bullshit. um, and they
yeah,
can do that. They
it
can do
quickly
that
goes
like,
wrong. Right.
oh yeah. I mean, look.
So
Uh,
on that path, you quickly get to Epstein and his pals, and you get
yeah,
to
yeah.
Owls in the Woods and
You
up
do,
there
yeah,
in
yeah.
Muir Woods and stuff
The
in San Francisco.
the
And so, yeah, the Laurel Canyon and stuff is famous for all of this stuff. But I mean, it's part and parcel of living in California. It's you know,
yeah.
I didn't know anybody would get bent out of
Oh,
shape about it, but it can get really bad. It can. There have been some serious. So yeah, Manson and all of these guys, they were all infiltrated by the CIA, and Manson had a lot to do with the CIA and
yeah.
all of that stuff. So it gets dark pretty quick. But that's the trip that they all on. I keep on saying the guys are bored. When you get super rich and super powerful, you run out of thrills, and then that's where it goes. It always goes down that path
Yeah.
because you need to get your kicks somehow, and you just try one thing after another, and that's that you've got to do worse and worse stuff to get your kick.
Well, I
Your
think
kick.
that
So
was the
it
kind of
goes.
spiral that Aleister Crowley was in towards the end, where it was just kind of like it just had to become more and more intense and more daring until eventually it did him in, from what I gather. But uh,
Yeah.
I was just going to go back for a minute. There was a Chinese master I knew personally for a few years, and he was trained in very traditional, old school stuff, martial arts and healing arts, and the whole thing. And he was telling me that some of the masters that he was associating with, that they had gone over and they were just into black stuff. That they were completely using it for manipulative purposes. Um, and but they were just as potent and powerful as the guys who were being responsible about it. And the stuff they could do, man, like it was serious powers that they had. It was no joke. And I was just sort of feeding that bit of knowledge into some of the things that you were saying. Because I don't think people get that. That they don't understand that if somebody can do that, they really are quite. They're quite powerful. I mean, the point is now at this stage, uh, I don't think there's an ethical um, objection to using it to get a result from our point of view. If we know someone who who's got some ability in that respect.
Yeah, I think it's going to become important as things get more totalitarian. But yeah, people don't. Yeah, I mean, liberals are kind of white bread, middle of the road, kind of protected, and they think they know conspiracy theories. And so they're kind of shocked when they make all these connections. Like, Ken Kesey was part of MK Ultra, and everybody forgets that he was one of the experimental subjects on MK Ultra that they gave LSD to. That's where the LSD revolution came in, and all those guys, you know. What's his name? Alistair, not Alistair Crowley. The you know, tune in, um, turn on and drop out guy. What was his name? Timothy Leary. So yeah, Timothy Leary and stuff. He was all in the CIA, and so where the military stops in America, and where civilian stuff starts, and where all the magic and occult starts, it's a complete blur. They all overlap.
Yeah,
It's
that
amazing
came up.
when these libs find out. And so, I didn't know that people are still amazed by this.
Something came to mind the other day too, when actually it might have been last week when Tom posted that video about Asimov and Spengler, I think it was. And I'm sure I read somewhere that either the US military or the CIA or some US government department had been employing Asimov to advise them on future scenarios, and not just him. I think there were other well-known sci-fi writers who were.
L. Ron Hubbard and so.
Yeah.
L. Ron Hubbard and all, those science fiction writers. I mean, the communication satellite was invented by Arthur C. Clarke, and those people don't realize how much of an agenda those sci-fi writers had. Those guys are all part and parcel of JPL and Jack Parsons, and they were into real rocketry as well as imaginary space travel and stuff. So they all bleed into each other. And so traditionally what happens is, if you go look at the Nazis, they all are occultists. So Himmler and those guys, they're all occultists, and Hitler was a deep occultist. And so if you look at the Nazi roots, occult roots of Nazism, they have a very ambivalent relationship to occult. They completely believe in it and they use it, but they also chuck, magicians and stuff in concentration camps. So in general, that's the way things go. And when things get fash, and they're going to get fash, they're getting fash really in front of our eyes, or totalitarian, either left or right, communist or alt-right, they're the same. It's just basically totalitarian fascism, whether it's national fascism, international fascism, they're all the same. But that's where we're headed, and rapidly. And so what we can expect is that you're going to need secret societies. And part of those secret societies are people into the occult, black magic, white magic, magicians. All of these people are the essence of secret societies and cults. And then those become the thorn in the side for the totalitarian dictatorship. So that's, we can't shy away from that, because when things go totalitarian, you need to fight back. And it eats out your soul if you just sit there and do nothing. It's the worst part of all.
Yeah, it's a kind of a refuge place.
You need to, you need to keep your mental integrity and your psychological integrity. You need to find ways of fighting back. And I think the only way, really, if you in a totalitarian system, like whether it's like East Germany or Nazi Germany, or Stalinist Russia, or Mao, or Xi Jinping's China, is to have a secret society. That's the way those guys get overthrown. All the way back to the White Lotus secret society and the Boxer Rebellion, and that's the way it's done. secret societies. They don't really work as the Rotary Club, but even the Rotary Club and things that are really innocent become a real problem for totalitarians because they automatically networks. That's why they hate the Freemasons. That's why they hate Scientologists and all of those Adventists and all of those guys, because they are the embryo of a system that will overthrow the totalitarian. But you see, everybody now, and you notice this again and again, and especially the stuff that we're doing, is people trundle along and they come close to the stuff, and then they go, "Ooh, but I'm going to be anonymous. I'm not going to tell you." It's like, don't be a fucking idiot. You can't escape by being a goody two-shoes. So all these people are making a huge fucking mistake. They go like, "Oh, no, I saw something by Uncle Ted. Ooh, now you've got me doxxed by the state, you bastard." And it's like it's not like that, morons. It's basically you're in it up to your neck. The state doesn't give a rat's ass about whether you're a goody two-shoes or not. It doesn't work that way. So you just get with it. You have to resist. There's no the state relies on you thinking that, oh, there's some path that I can take where if I'm really good and I obey the state, I'll be all right. They rely on you being that stupid, and there isn't a path, right? I'll take you back to, you don't know where the state goes. Today, they all, hey, LGBTQ, it's like, well, that's fabulous. Why? Because it divides everybody. When they consolidated their power, it'll suddenly be a big no-no. Look what's happening in China. So you one day you're signing up for Extinction Rebellion, doxing yourself, and you're thinking, well, I'll always be right because I'm a liberal and we'll always have democracy. No, go and have a look at what happened to the guys in Yugoslavia. All the Jews signed up and registered their names because they thought that if they were good, then they would be treated nicely. So they went and doxed themselves, and that got them in the chopper. If they'd been disobedient from day one, they would probably survive. So you don't assume that you get through this by being goody two-shoes. That's what everybody thinks. That's what they rely on. You're going to get fucked, and you're not going to have anybody to help you. So everybody thinks that they can be a little individualist, go into totalitarianism, and then basically, just ignore the other people being hauled off in the night because you're not in the nasty category. You'll be in the nasty category. Eventually, they'll corner you into something that you cannot do, like give up your kids or get, you just don't know where the state is going to go. They will get to something that you find intolerable, and then you're going to be on your fucking own without a network. Why? Because you were such a brilliant little goody two-shoes that you thought you're going to avoid the trouble. It's like, yeah, and you also avoided the fucking network that's going to help you when totalitarians. And don't be a stupid cunt. Get with it. You've got to resist. Shit's coming. So anyway, that's why we have to talk to these guys. These guys on networks. You need to know as many networks as possible and navigate them like a jungle gym. But yeah, this stuff is important, guys. I just daily meet all these liberals that have their heads up their ass. They don't know what's coming. It's fucking obvious as the nose on your face is what's coming, and no one believes it. They think that it's always going to be sweetness and light and nice as pie. It's not. It's guaranteed it's not. It's one of the few certainties we have that things are going to change. They're going to be unstable. Don't be an idiot. God, don't be an idiot.
See, this is what's happened in Australia just in the past, 2 weeks, which I think most people just missed. They just missed it totally. But basically, it just flipped from being a democracy to a totalitarian thing. They're just laying down whatever they fucking want to lay down, and everybody's sucking it up. It's just there's just it's been like almost a seamless transition from one into the other, almost like what you said about that Jungian.
So it's called
thing, the enantodromia,
It's called the shock
So,
doctrine. So the quickest way to
mm,
gain control over the people is to terrify them. So the people in charge of the governments in charge of us are terrorists. They openly terrorists. You just saw Joe Biden do a terrorist attack in Kabul. It's basically they are terrorists. So the way they work is a shock doctrine. They use shock and awe. It's a standard psyops technique where you just do some spectacular that scares the bejesus out of the population, and then they don't resist. They're paralyzed with fear. It's very, very easy to do, and they all do it. It's got to be such an entrenched technique that it's trickled down to the middle management in American corporations, and they do, project management like crisis. But you just have to, create a crisis, and then you do whatever the fuck you want, and that's what they do. And all of these things are never going to be rolled back. So everybody thinks they're temporary. If they say something's temporary, you can bet your fucking grandchildren are going to be living with it. So yeah, it's from here on out. That's the rule. They will shock you, and then basically put something in place that will never be rolled back. So it's simple. Now everybody's thinking, it's really a question of how quickly you can lose your delusions. The better off you be is how quickly you can basically say, okay, I'll give up everything that I think I have now. Will be the best you are. You see, where everybody goes wrong is the kind of frog in the pot getting hotter and hotter. So everybody tries to hang on to this as I still want a normal liberal life. So I'll get vaccinated and I'll get the QR code, and then I'll be able to go to restaurants and movies. Give up on restaurants and movies. The way to think of these things is these are little hints that you shouldn't be doing this shit. That's the way to think about it. So you shouldn't be thinking, I'll make the devil's bargain so I can start living normally. Do the normal shit that my friends have. I'll have a cell phone. All these things are hints that you should be giving that up. So if you can't get into a restaurant because they have QR codes, it means restaurants are over. It doesn't mean you have to jump through hoops to try and go to restaurants. It's trying to live a normal life that will get you. So take these as opportunities to say, this is the time to let go. Each one of the hints, when you see a thing that says they've got COVID tomatoes, they've got vaccines, genetically modified tomatoes with vaccines, well, those are going to be fucking everything. It's a gentle hint to you. You have to get out of the industrialized food system. So these things might come fast, and you've got to move fast. But don't keep on scrambling towards this fucking liberal lifestyle that's gone. Liberal democracy is over. It died in 2016. So don't hang on. Give these things up. If you can't go on and do this or go in a car, or say that's goodbye to cars. That's goodbye to movies. These are helpful little hints to tell you to get off them. So that's the way to take them. Yeah. Anything that has bad consequences, give it up now. Organize your life, and eventually you'll find yourself outside the system, which is the place you need to be to survive. But trying to keep up with the system is how they drag you in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things
But
are
it's
moving
like,
fast, guys.
yeah, they are. And it's like, I don't know, the discourse where I live in America, at least, is completely screwed. Like, everyone's doing the culture war thing of Republican and Democrat. And I'm sitting here and I see the system crumbling, and just the authoritarians, are gathering, and one of them is going to take the reins and, fulfill, the system's destiny. That's what I see, and it's horrifying, and no one else sees this shit, and I'm sitting there, pointing and ranting, and just they're just obsessed with, oh, Biden's bad, Trump is bad, gnawing at each other, and they don't realize that, that's what those authoritarians want them to do, is to just bicker over, like Freud said, the narcissism of minor differences.
Yeah, it's obvious they're all the same. Nobody wants to accept that. Yeah. Yeah, everybody was so terrified of Trump. But I think Biden's made more moves in the time he's been in office towards totalitarianism than Trump ever did.
Yeah, I think all the moves Biden is doing, his failures and his successes are just making it to where whatever kind of authoritarian takes over can, consolidate absolute power and never leave the office again.
Yeah, I don't know why that didn't happen on January the 6th. There was some error in the script somewhere, but
I
that's where it
think
was
it's
headed.
because
So that's where it went with South Africa.
yeah, it's like I think you all have seen that video, like it's called like the keys to power or whatever. Maybe Trump didn't have all the keys to power he needed to, take over America yet. But he's doing his rallies and shit, and I think he's trying to get the deep state and the keys to power on his side. So when his moment comes, he's gonna try and take over. Maybe, I don't know. It could be a show too. It could be bullshit, but
I thought so. No, I thought so. I got the definite impression that there was a hiccup around about Texas, because there were a lot of like strange, little excursions to Texas, and I think probably they needed Texas on board, and Texas wasn't on board, and so they had to kind of abandon the plan. But the plan went wrong. You can clearly see the plan went wrong. But if it did, the fallout is that basically the principle has been proven. So I can't see that somebody else won't do it again. Once they've kind of opened the casket, once you've seen that visual once, that's kind of an established precedent. So it's not like this stays in 2021 and you'll never hear of anything like it ever again. It's like, this is a pattern, it's coming back. So it might come back on the left. But yeah, it's a lot of vultures circling. You can see the vultures circling. But you can see all these guys, Mormons, the Scientologists, the cyberpunks, the libertarians, even the great unplugged. All these guys, all everywhere. They're maneuvering now because they can see the system. And the biggest flaw in it is the currency system. I'm trying to get people to wake up, but I'm not making any headway. But you see, they're printing themselves into a rebellion. They're printing money into a crisis. And so, maybe they're doing it deliberately for kind of debt jubilee, but if they are, they're in a very vulnerable state until they transition to a cashless society or something. But revolutionaries should be getting ready at this point for hyperinflation and a fiscal collapse. And because anybody that can weather a fiscal collapse, any movement that can weather a fiscal collapse, and so I've got the solution. I mean, if you know my proposal about having, the game and having it financed with, fake currency and then accumulating gold and silver in the back end. If you have gold and silver at the time when they're in a position like the Assignac in France, then you're in a very, very good position as a movement. But I'm sure the guy's doing it, right? I'm very certain. I'm sure that the Pentagon must be ridden. I know of one or two factions, but I'm not close to that scene. But damn well that they're factions. And also on January the 6th, you can see that it was an inside job. So you can clearly see there's the FBI on one side. And then you can see the Pentagon must have been in on it. And God knows how that's, the fracture lines in the Pentagon. I'm not really clued up on that. But you can see they must be there. In all the alphabet soup organizations, there must be serious factional divides.
Yeah, and the thing is like with the FBI and the CIA and those guys, they would love nothing more than an authoritarian just to completely unleash them. That's what they want. They love that shit.
Yeah, the FBI seems to be continually on the side of the state on the Constitution, but I think the military guys have kind of had it with this shit. And there's there's a big price to be paid for woke. Everybody's been a bit too indulgent on woke, and they think it's their right, and it's, the heads have been filled in by, Gramsci's long march through the institutions and all these, stupid tankies telling them that this is, you're on the wrong side of history if you don't see all this. Is like, no, you're on the wrong side of history if you don't realize that woke has a price to pay, and they're going to pay heavily for it. The backlash against all that is coming. It's much bigger than just QAnon. So, yeah. Basically, if I was gay, I wouldn't be so flamboyant. At this point, I'd be removing my every bit of presence I had, or any reference to being gay on social media. I think that's where you should be at this stage. If you're out there waving the rainbow flag, I don't think that's appropriate at this time. You're going to probably pay for that within years. So in other words, everybody's being a bit too indulgent. Just precaution.
Feminine. I think here too, the feminist thing is probably, a sitting target as well. Consider that. What was that ridiculous article that was in the Jem Bandel, that lady who wrote something under the Jem Bandel, wanting males back or something. I mean, was a good example of how far gone these people are. They just can't even see it when they think they can see it.
Yeah, it reminds me of, every time I see it, it reminds me of Cabaret. Liza Minnelli in Cabaret, the movie. It's basically the guys are in like Germany, 1930s, early 1930s, and they're having a good old party. Not dreaming of what's around the corner, although it's pretty fucking obvious if you look in history. But I think that lesbians and feminists, they don't get it so hard. So traditionally, if you look in Germany, like the Code 51 and stuff, is very bad. You see, most of these totalitarian regimes are very interested in babies. They want to grow their population. They have labor shortages because they need to have soldiers and stuff like that. And so a large part of National Socialism and Soviet Socialism and international communism, they need bodies because they're very expensive in terms of, they're very profligate in human life. And so they need breeders. And so they're very into breeding, and that's partly why gay people come under the chop. But for, lesbians and feminists and stuff, they always potentially breeders in the eyes of the state, so they never kind of come down as hard. But if you're a trans person or something like that, you're a non-breeder. The totalitarian state is going to take you as basically surplus population.
Yeah, well, if you look
just
back,
have to think of it as cattle. We're just cattle, and you just have to think of what kind of a breeding animal are you, and if you're not good for breeding or milking, they're going to use you for meat, and so that's pretty much how it works under totalitarian and transhumanism.
I often wondered that about the Old Testament and the biblical the biblical prohibitions on homosexuality and that. And, when you look at the kind of world that they lived in, where, your tribe, your village could be prone to being wiped out, down to a few people very quickly and easily, you can see that the same thing where they just couldn't afford to not have everybody breeding. It was just necessary. I've often wondered. It looks to me as though that was in a way the origins of their we call it now their moral position on sexuality, but it would have been looked at from quite a different perspective in the actual time that they were living.
Well, if you look in ancient Greece, then the homosexuality is completely tolerated with both sexes, because it was just something that people did. See, there wasn't this idea that there's currently, that you have an identity. So you have a same-sex identity, and then it means you absolute about breeding or something. So, Socrates or Aristotle or anything, you bang little boys, and that's completely okay. It's not okay after they reach puberty. That's immoral, although for us it's the other way around. But then it doesn't exclude you from having kids and having a wife and keeping a homestead and stuff. So, they in ancient Greece, they thought of warriors as gay, and the reason is, they thought that. I mean, Socrates gives an explanation for being gay, is that it's good for soldiers, because they you know uh, they have basically bond of brothers, and they compete against each other for lovers, and so that in battle. So that's why they thought that guys were gay. But yeah, it's what we've done now is we made an identity out of it. So you're kind of putting a pink triangle on yourself, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
I wish we could get back to just like there's no such thing as LGBTQ. You just basically anybody's allowed to do anything. If it's this absolutism that once you're that way, you can't go back. You're fixed in this identity, and it's like, I think it's so wrong.
Well, you
People
can
should have the
see.
freedom to be like, I like to think if I want to be gay tomorrow, I'll be gay tomorrow. I'll be lesbian the next day.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
what the fuck? Just do whatever you feel like. There's the idea is I am gay. Is like, where do you get that shit from, man? It's just toxic, and you're gonna pay for it.
It's interesting too, because one of the things I never see is like, at least in my experience, what you're attracted, like a lot of what you're attracted to isn't really consciously decided by you. I could never rationally explain why I was attracted to my ex-girlfriend, for instance. That's just a what the fuck. So I think it's that way generally with human sexuality, but we're caught in this identity loop of trying
Yeah,
to like
and,
fucking
and
explain
then
it, and it's like, dude, just stop, just go with it.
yeah, it's like you're human. Humans do fucking anything, and I mean that in the literal term. It's basically when we were kids, we used to say like, I used to try and fuck anything that moves. But then one day I sat down and I thought, it's not right, man. Why limit yourself? Anyway, just a funny joke at the time.
I was no, I was just trying to think back to something you said to me quite a long time ago, and I can't remember what it was, but I think I said to you I saw a book I was flicking through, and it was about the history of gay liberation or something like that, and towards the front of it, it just had a photo of people protesting, and it was all, the usual gay rights bullshit like this, but there was just one guy who was standing there in the front, and his placard said, didn't say I'm homosexual, it said I'm human sexual. And when I looked at everybody else in the photo, his was the only placard that actually seemed to me to be saying something uh, important, that was really making a worthwhile statement. But that seems to connect very much with what you were just saying a minute ago about, you just sort of go with your sexuality. You don't create a pigeonhole and put it in, tie it all up, you know.
These identities are so dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you shouldn't be labeling other people, let alone yourself.
But the other thing is too when
But
you see
anyway.
that the libraries full of books, going back to what you were saying about Greece, the libraries full of books that are trying to talk about, the homosexuality in ancient Greece, and apply this kind of identity thing. apply that retrospectively to them as some kind of justification for the way people are now. And I mean, it's just, you can't do that. But, I mean, God only knows how many academic treatises and all sorts of things were produced trying to accomplish that feat.
Yeah, we kind of forget how culturally bound we are to the Anglosphere. Because here in Greece, the tradition from the ancient times still carries on. I mean, I see these guys, they like, meet each other, have a kiss, and like hold hands and stuff, and but they're still married and stuff. So it's kind of like ancient times still. So you have the Greek Orthodox Church. All the Greek Orthodox priests are fucking pedophiles as far as I can see. They're always walking around groping little kids. I mean, they always got a little boy next to them. And so, and then they, and then you see all the boys and stuff, blowing each other kisses and stuff. They're banging each other, and then they still got girlfriends and wives sometimes. So it still lasts today. But that kind of fluidity, you in the it's so alien to us in the Anglosphere. We just assume that you have these identities and they're all rigid, and if someone's gay, it's freaking labeled to their forehead. It's just like
that came out in that. I noticed that in that article that I just spoke about a moment ago with under the Jem Bendel one that lady wrote, and where I think there was a line in that where she made some comments about how the men would stand arm in arm doing something, protecting us or something like that. And the thing that stood out for me when I was reading that was I thought, oh my God, so she's finally we're allowed to touch each other. But again, you can see, it's just what you were saying. It's very much a thing in the Anglosphere. Even down to I think some of those. It was on one of the Reddit posts where the fires were in Greece. One of those reports, and and I've noticed it before. How you'll see groups of Greek men just sitting around playing cards or being very familiar with each other and all this kind of thing. And that seems to be a rare thing among the Anglo men. They don't, they don't have their little groups. They're all by themselves. They live with their wives, kind of thing. There's not male connection, even non-physical male connection is not really there to any great extent. They're all they're all in this desperate thing with their women, in their little nesting box. So sorry, I don't quite know where to take that, but just an observation.
Well, the thing that I want to tell my role as Cassandra is guys, that all this shit's going away. The lifespan of liberalism and woke and stuff hasn't got very much. It's basically, as soon as the shit hits the fan, it's gone. It'll just dry up like the mist. So it's not worth giving it a lot of attention. It's important now because of basically making a movement. You need to kind of make it part of the egregore and the culture that kind of egotism is not tolerated. Egotism and identity that way is not tolerated. But just in terms of your personal expectations is as soon as we go to war or we get tough times, and they're coming. You can see they're coming. As soon as that happens, nobody will remember what LGBTQ stands for. You see, what happens is you go into a Jessica Lynch moment. So you have the army, one day the army is like saying, oh, we love your identity. And even though you're a Hispanic single mom, who's a lesbian feminist and stuff, you have a great career forward in the military and you can fly fighter jets and join the special forces. And it's like, guys, day one in the military, you're going to have one of those people out in the front line. They're going to be captured, brutally raped, and tortured. It's going to be a Jessica Lynch moment. the public goes nuts, and the military are told, get those women off the front lines and as far away from action as possible. And that's it. That's the end of it. You'll never hear a fucking peep out of any kind of gender rights or anything. And then you just saw it with Jim Bendel's paper, or that article. I was quite flabbergasted by it because I didn't think we were actually at that stage. But there they are saying, you know, like, hey, we actually need the men to defend us. Oh, right. Oh, so you're not as dumb as you look. The men are going to need to defend you. I'm sorry, man. You can be as butch as you like, but you're not going to be a frontline soldier. You see, if you go and look at anarchists and stuff in, say, 1938 in Catalonia, you have a look at the Spanish Civil War. They had mixed brigades, and they had women on the front lines. So women in the CNT, the vicious fighters. You can go and see in Rojava and stuff, those women are very, very good fighters. But even anarchists had to divide women into different divisions. And there was always the problem of sexuality from the enemy, because they're going to rape you, and from your own soldiers, because they would, you know, basically discipline would break down. A lot of people would spend their time in the trenches trying to make their way towards the women's division so they could fraternize with them and stuff. It's basically a deficit, right? So it's just a division of labor that goes into our genes. So women can be very good warriors. And that's not to say that, but it's like, you can't have a gender neutral or gender blind military. It doesn't work. So what these armies do is, in peacetime, armies go to pieces and they get more and more decay in them. And then when a war starts, they have to roll back the bullshit all the way back to the last war, and then reconstitute the army. So all it's doing is you're just weakening the army. And then when it has to fight, they have to repeal all these years and years of pay equality and gender equality and all of this. You know, it's like, you just got to unwind all of that when the war starts. So it's, you see, now what I'm saying is not misogynistic or chauvinist or anything like that. Is like, I'm just telling you the reality of it, because it's not, you know, chauvinist men that reform the. It's the woman. It's all the identities that say, get my identity fellow off the front lines. It's them that repeal it. It's not the male chauvinists or the patriarchy that repeals it. It's the women or themselves that will say, get the woman off the front line, as soon as they see where it's going. So at the moment, it's all like, oh, you know, it's a big gravy trough, and you get a career in the military, and you want to be paid and stuff. So it's, you know, yeah, it's all big jollies because it's peacetime. When it gets to be wartime, and you have to spend months in the mud in the trenches or something, it's like, nah, sorry, you're going to be desperate to come home. And the society at large will bring you home. It's in our genes. I'm sorry to tell everybody, that the feminists and stuff like that, it's in our genes. That's basically the woman. The woman will hand out white feathers like they did in World War I, and the men go to the front lines. That is the reason why men, you know, had more status in that. It was the price that basically we commit suicide higher. We basically go to war. Men are expendable. And so, you know, we've had a brief, you know, holiday, but things are about to get real. And so the holiday's over for men, and gender roles are going to be back in on day one as soon as things get shitty. So I'm telling you all this, not because I have some feminist or chauvinist or patriarchal agenda, or, you know, some, you know, male survivalist or any of that kind of, I'm telling you this to ease your heartache, to ease your pain, and to stop the shock. So forewarned is forearmed, and you got to be psychologically prepared for what's coming. And that's where I'm at.
Hugh, do you want to change subject, or do you want to keep going on that, or?
No, that's good. That's good.
I've just got a small thing to say, but it might lead somewhere. Going back to the closing ceremony that you're creating with Lionel, you produced the first scenario, the first script for that, and then sent a message and said, "Oh no, we're going to change it." And it was strange because when you said that you were going to change it, I was sitting thinking, "Oh, okay. Supposing I was doing it, what would I do?" And I was rather amazed that I didn't tell you what I had in mind. And did you come up with the second script, or did Lionel? Was it
It was
collaborative?
it was mostly Lionel because
Yeah,
we first came up with the thing, the first version that you saw,
yeah,
and then that's what we told to Faulty just in discussions. What happened was then Lionel went and choreographed it and really practiced it, and then found that the times didn't work and it was too complicated. So he said that to get all that stuff on the magic right and stuff, he said you would take a lot of time to work with the people and a lot of rehearsing and stuff, and we just don't have that time. So then we decided that it has to be radically simplified and we can't do any of the magic tricks and stuff.
yeah. Well,
And then I thought it was better actually. I thought what he came up with in the second one was better.
yes,
I thought as it stands now, it's pretty good. Yeah. What do you think?
it
Do you think it's
is.
good?
But what amazed me, I had, well, I don't know what I thought was. My initial thought was that you would have effigies of all the nasty guys. You would have an effigy of the big bad cop and an effigy of life-size effigies of Klaus Schwab and Boris Johnson and Pretty Prattle and the whole lot of them, and they would, all of the effigies would be brutally executed by different means during the course of the thing. You would
I would
have
do that, but I don't think we'll get away
you
with
would.
that one.
No, but that was why I didn't suggest it to you, because I thought, look, they wouldn't do it. It's just going too far. But when you look
You
at what
see,
Lionel did,
yeah,
Lionel's done
yeah,
exactly the same thing, but he's done it
yeah, yeah,
symbolically. Yeah, and I thought, look, that
yeah,
was just
yeah. I
brilliant.
thought it was really well done.
But it just
Yeah, I did
absolutely
too.
freaked me. Yeah, I was just blown
Yeah,
away though when I thought,
basically
hang on.
he achieved. Well, no, he achieved everything that we would have done more explicitly in the subtlest and nicest of ways. So basically,
That,
yeah, symbolically,
that's it. I'm looking at it and
we
I thought,
did
oh
everything that
wow,
would
that's
be
exactly it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope
Yeah,
that I sent it to Faulty yesterday, but I hope, I'm not expecting he'll come back soon because I think they're pretty busy at the moment. But I hope that they will see it as such, as what it is. But it's pretty subtle, I thought. It achieved
yeah. I
a
mean,
lot
it's not.
in a harmless and offensive way, I thought.
All right. I mean, that leads on to the next bit. Was this bit about Russell Brand being the shaman?
That would be so cool. I will suggest it
Yeah, I don't know.
if
Do
this
you
is.
think Russell is so embedded in being Russell that he won't want to risk
but,
his? He'll do an
but
Alice in
he's
the.
just so. No. I think he probably will see how damn good he is for the part. But you see,
Yeah,
it hangs on
yeah,
whether you can see the joke. I just thought it's so fucking funny to have the
yeah.
left wing, shaman is just like to it. I mean, I just think it's so cool that you could have, if you could get that as the lead picture in the press, right? As basically exactly the mirror image of January the 6th. Is like,
of the
so damn
capital
cool.
one,
It just says, nobody knows how to take it. Is it a spoof? Is it a joke? Is it a takedown? Is it? Yeah, they just wouldn't know. But the sensation it could generate is huge because it's so damn provocative. in a
and of course it as you, but it's full of
version of that outfit, and have him as the centerpiece of the thing. Oh, I think that would be so
would be
peachy. I think it
amazing.
would be just
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah. I'm just wondering whether it would be worth mentioning that to Faulty, because he might know somebody who has got a connection to Brand, who can actually talk to him.
Yeah, I think it's quite possible. I'm sure it's quite
because
possible
that might be a lot
that
more
it might come through. But yeah, I first want to see what he thinks of the idea. If he likes the format and stuff, but he might balk at that. Might not think that's the right image or something like that. He might not get it where we're going with it. But I just think it would be just freaking brilliant. Yeah. To me, it's obvious why you would do it. It's kind of, it's half a joke, it's half serious. It's just perfect for an ARG or psyops.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's
and
what
you just
the whole capital.
Freak everybody in Britain out.
Yeah, I mean, it would work just as as the Capitol thing worked, where nobody was quite sure what the hell was going on. There was either 200 things going on at once, or one thing, depending on your belief, or anything in between.
Yeah, but it'd be, half the people would think that you're ridiculing the far right, and half of them would be terrified, like, QAnon's come to prison. I think it would be golden, but I'll wait to see what they think. Yeah,
It's a great idea.
hate it all, it'll be a real blow, because I think that basically it really, the whole format and everything, it really sets kind of the vision for how we think the rebellion should be. Yeah. Anyway, have you been looking at how the summer rebellion's been going?
I have trouble looking at that kind of stuff. I don't know. I just find it hard to look at.
I think the answer is not too well.
I just sort of rely on everybody telling me what happened, kind of thing. It's painful
I think it's
to
not
look at.
going too well. Yeah.
Like it's painful in several ways. It's painful to watch people being futile. It's painful to watch the police brutality. It's like there just seems to be so many levels in which it's just really, yeah, maybe it's just my sensitivities. I don't know.
No, I feel the same thing. I mean, it's so excruciatingly painful to see the media and the predictability and their banality and the, oh God, it's like, can you come up with something original? It's like, but you're a hypocrite too, and all this fucking liberal shit. Oh, it's like, oh God, Christ sakes, it's so painful.
I feel the same way. I just can't watch that stuff.
Can't the BBC see what they look like with that, like, but you drive a diesel car, you're a hypocrite. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake, man. Just fucking die. Just die. Yeah, when I watch that stuff, I get to the point where I think, I'm looking forward to this collapse. I just hope they die horribly and miserably and painfully, because otherwise there's no justice in this world. Yeah, I reached my limit when I watched that shit, I must say.
Yeah, like, I don't know, the whole discourse thing. I mean, my thought is like whenever I get through one of those, like talking to somebody and they just don't get it, or seeing a video of like a protest, then it's, you can clearly see it's like organized and the police are in control and all this. I just think it just reinforces what I've known for since I was like 14, that we're so fucked.
Yeah, that's the overriding thing. I mean, like, this kabuki dance, it's like, all this apocalypse, war, and kabuki dance, entertainment. It's like, guys, you just don't know how you're punishing me. It's torture. But the other thing that's torturing me now is geoengineering, because I'm starting to realize more and more that a lot of the people think, especially in Britain, think that geoengineering is responsible. They're thinking we have to do the research because that's so we know, and we have that option, and they're too naive to see that the research is bullshit. The research is just to move the agenda forward to public acceptance so that they can implement it.
But it's a
nobody sees that. They think it's plan B and it's insurance. And no, it's plan A. Don't be stupid. And now people are telling me, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. No, for fuck's sake, go and do the research. Go and look at Ken Caldera. Go and look at David Keith. These guys are fucking psychopathic criminals. They on record saying, I'm doing this for the money. If they can get over the public reluctance for geoengineering, there's a fucking fortune in geoengineering. That's what David Keith is on record as saying, you stupid shits. And then basically he's funded by Bill Gates. They're trying to make out like bandits because they'll own the patents that control the thermostat of the world. They basically, it's Lex Luthor. What you're saying is not a conspiracy theorist. Yeah. He's on record admitting to his fucking conspiracy. And then they infiltrated the fucking IPCC Group 1, and they, the whole of the IPCC, barring the special summary for policymakers, the whole body of the AR6 is, we have to do geoengineering, and these are all the fucking things. That's the whole thing. It's a manifesto for geoengineering, and all these little shits think it's okay. It's like, dudes, when we start geoengineering, we are fucked. There's no turning back. Basically, that is the bow on our coffin. That's the last nail. And
Hugh, it's also a parallel. But it's a parallel to what's happening with the vaccination, where plainly it's not going to work. It's not going to solve the problem. But we're using this as the excuse to keep the whole thing rolling a bit longer. It's just like, we're gonna invoke this magical vaccine, and then we're gonna go back, and everybody can prance around and do what the hell they like. But that's not going to do anything about the virus. It's still going to be there. And the geoengineering thing is just the same. It's like this magical excuse to keep going. That's not going to be a cure for anything.
Well, they fooled all these kids into thinking that we need more time. We need more time. No, the reason why we're not decarbonizing is because there's no willpower, not because there's not enough time. You can do anything. Look, just if you want to make the world carbon free tomorrow, shut down the grid. Simple. The reason why we're not decarbonizing is because there's no will. And so basically, if there's no will, then geoengineering is plan A. It's not an insurance policy. Geoengineering, as we stand, you're wasting your fucking time going and, moaning about Shell and how Exxon knew 40 years ago and how Britain, must make this big demand that Britain must stop subsidizing fossil fuels and stuff. It's like, while you're doing all that fucking shit, plan A is going in the center frame. So that oil is not staying in the ground because it doesn't need to after they do solar radiation management. After they do solar radiation management, they can burn, baby, burn. There's no reason to stop. So basically, they will put us into about 1,600 parts per million before they're finished. And then there's going to be a fucking hiccup, and there's going to be a war, because solar radiation management is not neutral. It's political, it's strategic, and it's martial. It's always been military technology. Weather control and geoengineering from day one has been military technology. Do you understand? Military technology. David Keith, Ken Caldera, they come from the military. They come from Lawrence Livermore. They worked on atomic bombs before, you stupid fucks. God almighty. And these people then say, like, you know, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. So since 1965, the first report on climate change to Lyndon B. Johnson said, there's only one solution. Industrial civilization is going to cause global warming and climate instability. Plan A is geoengineering. Not stopping, not mitigation, not transition to a green economy. They said from 1965, there was only one offer of a solution, and that was geoengineering. And it hasn't changed. It's still like that today. Why do you think Exxon doesn't give a fuck? You think they don't have kids? No, because they've got this fucking thing in their back pocket called geoengineering. So geoengineering puts them in control. Geoengineering puts them in control of the fucking weather. You know how much control that is? You know how they can keep people in line if you don't make your IMF payments because you're Gambia? They'll say, well, then we're going to shut off your rain, assholes. It's like having a water meter where the guy who owns the water system is your biggest fucking psychopath and bully in the world. But the problem is that this is not equitable, right? So when they do marine cloud brightening and shit like that, they know already, they've done the fucking modeling. It's going to devastate China, India, and South America. It's politically a causus bellis. It's a reason for war. But I mean, think it through, guys. If they prepared to be so ballsy that they're absolutely heading for a thing that is, what it means is they think they can contain and beat China. It means they can kick China in the nuts and they can get away with geoengineering. They're thinking they can shut China up. Now, what do you think shutting China up means? China is nuclearizing like a fucking demon. Why? Because they're in the same position as Saddam. They know they're about to get the Saddam treatment. So basically, it's just the same as Kim Jong-un. He had to go and nuclearize it at a fucking furious rate, just like Iran. Because they all know if you don't get fucking nuclear deterrent really fast, America's going to fuck you like they fucked Saddam. That's the Saddam lesson. They've all got the Saddam lesson. So China is heading for nuclear capabilities that equal the US or beat them as fast as they can. So in this nuclear arms race, where do you think it ends? Obviously, America's going to fucking nuke them before they can do geoengineering. Guys, wake the fuck up. What's wrong with everybody? Oh, my God.
I feel you. I totally feel you.
I mean, tell me what part of what I'm saying is bullshit. Please, just tell me what part of what I'm saying is bullshit.
It's not bullshit, that's the thing. I guess it's just too much for most people to believe. Like, I had to talk to somebody about geoengineering, and I'm like, yeah, we started geoengineering like 12,000 years ago with agriculture. And then you give them Anti-Civ 101, and then it blows their minds. But they're like, no, they can't accept that, all of this shit was a fucking mistake. They can't accept that. That all this stuff stems from, the
I
whole
absolutely believe that geoengineering started 12,000 years ago. I think climate scientists and paleontologists are being a little bit stupid, because you look at the climate record and the temperature goes bang, 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 up and down like a horse draws on market day. And then suddenly you get to the Holocene and it's flat as a Dover sole until you get to the Industrial Revolution, where it just takes off like a rocket. And they're like, well, you've got 12,000 years where it's flat as anything. And they're like, well, it was pretty convenient because, that allowed agriculture and civilization to flourish. And you say, guys, How likely is that? It's as obvious as that if the line is that flat and civilization and agriculture is starting, what's more likely is like obviously we keeping the line flat. We're basically deforesting. You see, basically we should be getting cooler. Things get cooler because you take the vegetation away. They get hotter when you take the vegetation away. See, what's happening in normally when you approach an ice age is you're getting hotter, cooler and wetter. You're getting more and more plant life. The plant life sucks down all the CO2, and so does the sea, and it sequesters it. So that's what causes the ice age. So it happened with the Azola event. They basically got all these ferns that went fucking nuts all over the Earth about 70 million years ago. It sucked out all the carbon. When there was no carbon, then we headed into a severe ice age. So clearly what's been happening is as obvious as the nose on your face, is that we've been doing slash and burn our agriculture. Not just in like the Fertile Crescents, all over Europe and Africa and Asia and South America. You can see the guys are altering the climate. Now all the anthropologists say, but there were only 1 million people in those. 1 million people can burn the fuck out of anything. What they're doing is they're taking the vegetation as fast as they can for agriculture and for hunting. They're doing, hunting by fire. But you can see that they're hunting and deforesting as fast as they can, and they're holding the temperature at that line. If the temperature ever gets a bit hotter, then agriculture doesn't work, it gets dry, and then basically you go back into the cooler periods again, because then the forests start recovering and agriculture starts declining. But then as soon as it gets a bit wetter and cooler, then they can go back to agriculture and they start deforesting again. And so they're regulating the temperature of that line without realizing it. So it must be what's happening. But they don't recognize it because they're fixated by, they were just, 5 guys and a goat in the Fertile Crescent. No, they weren't. They were doing slash and burn agriculture all over the fucking shop. And especially on the steppes and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think they've got the climate record right, and the vegetation record and the locality. I think they're screwing up on so many levels. I think that's where it is. We've been altering the climate since the beginning of agriculture, and so then it all takes off, goes like a rocket with the greenhouse gases, and then that destabilizes everything. It basically takes us into a regime where you can't do agriculture anymore. And so from here on out, such what means climate instability, not climate change, climate instability. Now it's going to gyrate because it's basically we've shocked the system. Right? We've done what they normally do, shock and awe to the populace. We've done shock and awe to the biosphere. And so it's from here on out, it's destable. Well, if it's destable, what you've got to do is take hands off. That is what I was trying to explain a few times with the helicopters and stuff like that. You basically put in control inputs. Geoengineering is going to put control inputs in that are going to overcorrect and meander around. You won't be able to measure the results properly. And the result is you will basically you will exacerbate the destabilization. So you will amplify all the wrong moves and stuff. It's obvious that's what you'll do. Anybody that knows anything about flying a helicopter or managing a computer system knows that that's what you'll do. So what you've got to do is take your foot off the accelerator or undo the last bit of thing that you did that fucked everything up. Just undo that, reverse that last thing. So if you're on an Apollo 13, you flick a switch and all hell breaks loose, all the panels go red and the needles start going and the alarms start flashing. You just switch the switch off again and stop. You don't leave the switch on and say, well, I guess what I've done is this, and scratch your head and say, well, I'll try this. And you'll never get back from that situation. You'll never get back.
I think that's what happened in Fukushima, where
in nuclear power station, it does it all the fucking time. They start
to take the rods out. That's right.
Yeah, but they start thinking and they start analyzing and they start guessing. There was a famous thing in Gene Kranz in the Apollo mission in Apollo 13. He was actually in the movie. That was an actual quote, and it was in actual real life. he said basically, okay, let's work the problem. I don't want anybody to make this worse by guessing. And because they knew that basically they'd done so many simulations, and they knew that if you get into a situation where you start guessing and analyzing and poking around, you will fuck it up. They knew that because they've done thousands upon thousands of simulations. And it's like, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. Shoot David Keith. Somebody, please God, fucking Ken Caldera, shoot the fuck. I mean it. I mean it. I swear, man. The
Somewhere
Earth system
here I
cannot
saw.
be fucked around with this. Exactly.
Yeah, I saw a graph of what the Earth's temperatures would be like if it wasn't for the amount of carbon we were putting into the atmosphere, and it clearly showed that we were descending into an ice, should be just going into an ice age at the moment, like, you know, well on a trend of temperatures going down. So it's just interesting to consider that in light of what you've just said. You know, that we're still sort of counteracting what would normally have happened. So yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know where I saw the graph. It was quite interesting.
Yeah, but nobody understands these systems, and so it's just a question of taking your foot off the brake. I mean, off the accelerator. But no one wants to do it, and that's why we're fucked. But it's quite simple, and it's, you know, there are a lot of black swans out there. I mean, in a lot of ways, if we had a war with China, it would be good. Because I'm pretty sure they've worked out they've modeled it, and they know that basically we'd go into a nice little cozy nuclear winter, which would stem the greenhouse gases and greenhouse effect. So basically, you know, I'm pretty sure that, you know, balloons and sulfates in the upper atmosphere is not the geoengineering we're going to be doing. It's going to be far more like thermonuclear geoengineering with, you know, China being the base station. I think that's really where they're probably more headed. And so basically, letting off a few atomic bombs would be a nice little cooling. And they must realize that, because they've done so many above ground tests where they must have checked all of that afterwards. And so they can probably calibrate pretty well how much cooling you get for each thermonuclear device. And I think that's what they'll probably do. So they've got to it explains why they're such, you know, so stubborn about climate change, why they seem so suicidal. The continual mystery for liberals is, how can they be so blind? How can they be so dumb? It's like, you know, Christ's sake, guys, you're being dumb. Just try and figure out a scenario where they're not being dumb. Well, not where they're being psychopathic, but not being dumb. And then you'll probably have it. And the obvious one is that they tend to do a bit of thermonuclear cooling. So they're not worried about climate change like you are. And the guys at Exxon, they know, they've been in the same, you know, fucking clubs. They've been at the same meetings up in Muir Woods there and stuff. So they're in the same satanic cult. So they're in on it, and you're not. That's why you do climate activism, and you have this fucking mystery all the time. Why don't they wake up? How can they be the stupid? They're not. You are.
Yeah, I love that bit with Sid Smith, how he talked about like the owners of society, like all the liberals or family values conservatives, that their thoughts are as far removed from the rulers as their neighbors' dogs are to them. And it's like, yeah, that's true.
Okay, somebody is asking us, how do we put an end to geoengineering? Well, the way to do it is, the most effective way is to basically do a targeted assassination program. So in the past, it's worked like a gem. If there's one thing that works really, really well, is you make popular death sentence for anybody that goes down that route. You only have to pop off 2 or 3, and that's the end of that game. So basically, the same goes for billionaires. If you take them out, you can take them out from 2 miles with a Barrett rifle. You only have to take out 1 or 2, and you save the lives of millions. I mean it. It's the quickest and easiest way to stop this game. These guys are bullies and cowards. They're calculating. So if they think they have a 50-50 chance of being taken out by a Barrett rifle if they engage in geoengineering, that will be the end of the game. Bill Gates will be fucking backpedaling from it like he said it would never happen. But that's what it's going to take. It's not a... See, they don't give a shit about how many people know. They don't, you know, they control everybody, just like they control all these young kids who think it's, you know, they believe in the system. You see, all the kids believe in the system. They believe, they cannot come to terms with the fact that these people are psychopaths. So they will always, you know, grant them their best intentions, and they will always grant them the benefit of the doubt. And the psychopaths use that. And the way they do it is they tell them, you know, they fill their head with, well, it's prudent because we might get to the stage where we need this stuff, and they buy it. They buy it. They never think the worst, and you must always think the worst with these people. I mean, do you honestly think we would have got to this climate situation if these guys were all sweetness and light? It's like, guys, wake the fuck up, man. So that's the first way, but that is the surefire way. That is the surefire way. So just, if you think that's harsh and I'm the psychopath, let me explain to you. Social radiation management, by their own calculations, will dim the sun's light by 3%. It will mean that 3% of vegetation dies off. That includes crops. So basically, you go and work out how many people live just 3% on the wrong side of the bread line, or the right side of the bread line. Well, I'm going to tell you they're millions. So it's like, what's 3 guys compared to a few million? Take them down, man. Take them down. So yeah, it's basically, anarchists did this in the previous century. They did targeted assassinations against royals, and it changed the world. You see, they expunged it from history because they don't want you to know how fucking effective it is. But it even happened on the 70s. Yeah, you know, basically the same things started down that route in the 70s with Manson and stuff. It was much bigger than Manson. And they were doing targeted assassinations. They started to do targeted assassinations to celebs in California, and much more than just you know, Polanski and Sharon Tate and stuff. There were others, and if you read like David Niven, David Niven in his biography, he had just moved up to Hollywood, yeah, his next door neighbor had an anarchist come to his door and shoot him in the face. So David never knew that was the game, and they all moved out. They all moved out of Hollywood. See, they never told you all of this because they don't want you to know about the kryptonite. They don't want you to know how effective it is. But that was what was going on at the time, and it's highly, highly effective. These guys are cowards. They will not play this game after you basically put a price on them. It'll end short. But sure, if everybody's like too squeamish to go down that route, then okay, let millions of people die if that's only fine on your conscience. But then there are other ways to do it. One of them is to shame these people. So basically is expose them as nuts. I have a very good way to do this. I can't tell you because I'm still exploring it. But if basically the one hitch that I've got is, can you find a way to make a payment, a one-off payment of about $3,000 to the government, US government, so it looks like it's either untraceable or it looks like it came from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or Stanford or one of these criminals. If you can cover up the origin of a payment, then I have a serious thing that could stop these guys. And it's basically a psyops and public exposure. that I think would work. But if you can crack that one problem, I can't kind of figure out how to make that one-time payment. But if you can figure out how to make an anonymous or untraceable thing, is basically the thing I'm proposing, which would discredit these guys. If they followed the money, they would quickly get back to the fact that it was a hoax. But if you can figure out a way of making the payment like that. But yeah, I'm really keen to follow through on that. And then,
Hugh,
but
another thing
discrediting these guys is the next way to go. If you don't
Yeah.
shoot them, you've got to discredit them. So you've got to do character assassination or literal assassination.
But Hugh, you've got in a way no shortage of anarchists. It's just that they're completely misdirected and they're wandering around shooting people in schools and shopping centres, and they're just, completely missing the point. So, I mean, it wouldn't
Missing the
part of
target,
this
yeah.
missing the target, yeah. And I mean, so part of the strategy has got to be education. I mean, if it's widely enough known that what the correct target is, then eventually some of these people will find their way to the correct target. If you follow
Yeah, you
what
see,
I'm trying
that's
to
what a
say.
secret society is for. It's for disseminating this kind of information. Because eventually you have to do it. You have to do it for just self-protection, man.
Yeah, and then I don't know, for me, I just find it hard for people not to be motivated to actually do something, because it's like, these so-called rulers, they've enslaved our entire planet. They're destroying all of the poetry, beauty, and truth in nature. Almost every human is a slave on this planet now, and you're just, confined to a mundane, boring existence at best, and at worst, torture, imprisonment, and death.
Yeah, these guys, if you're liberal and you think you're on conspiracies and stuff, it's like these guys worked all of this out at Yale and Stanford and stuff, and you can go and read the papers. Some of them are about learned helplessness. They're basically how they tortured dogs until they tortured them into helplessness in a situation where they couldn't do anything about it. And then they found when you put the dog in a situation where they can do something about it, they just cower and whimper because they've learned helplessness. The dog, in effect, has its spirit broken. So then, even if it can correct its situation, in other words, the cage door is open and it can get away from the electric shock, it won't do it because it's a phenomenon called learned helplessness. As soon as they realize that, they work to do that on the population. The reason why nobody will rebel, and the reason why everybody finds excuses not to do anything, and the reason why they're all running scared and scared of surveillance and scared of saying boo to a goose, is because they have deliberately put us in a state of learned helplessness. They've gone to a lot of trouble to make you feel impotent. You're not impotent. They are scared shitless of you finding out your power. But you can't, if you want your power, you can't hold back, right? So basically, we are denying ourselves our power because they rely on us, like with a dog with learned helplessness, to find reasons to be helpless. And everybody's fucking expert. Fucking expert. Just go on Reddit and talk to one of these, go on the anarchist group, and you'll find out there isn't a single rebel in the whole fucking anarchist sub. There isn't a single rebel on Extinction Rebellion. Because they've trained everybody to find excuses for doing fuck all. They've trained you to deny your power. And they're scared shitless. All these guys are bullies. They're scared shitless of you using their techniques. Daily, we just seen Joe Biden is like, Taliban put a bomb in the airport, killed some 13 American soldiers. They come back with an assassination. It's like Why is that okay? It's like, why is Obama allowed to kill 10,000 people in cold blood? And that's kind of considered okay and normal and stuff. But like for a citizen to get a rifle and kill people that are about to geoengineer this planet into Venus, it's like, no, that's psychopathic. Why? Why? Because he's president. Does he have a license to be a psychopath? It's just beggars belief. But that's how you get to that with years and years of training and breeding and domestication, and that's where you get to. That's where we are. But don't worry, people are going to wake up. You see, they're always enough. You only need handfuls, right? You only need very, very few people. That's the thing. That's the thing. So never lose sight of that. Is you need tiny numbers, and I mean like less than 10. That's what they're scared of. The power in the hands of the individual and the lone wolf now is so extraordinary. And they, how many people in the US military? It's over 1 million. Do the maths. How many are disaffected there? Those guys have helicopter gunships and nuclear submarines and aircraft carriers. It's like, they will turn. It's coming.
But this is the thing that has amazed me over the years, that nobody's broken out like that. There's so many people in a position where they could just...
They keep it quiet, right? See, there's a lot more censorship than you realize.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of terrorism going on and a lot more censorship and a lot of people going nuts that doesn't make it to the news because they suppress it, especially in the military. If somebody goes a bit nuts in the military, many people are going nuts in the military all the time. If you've been in the military, you know it's part of the course. But they keep it out of the press, right? And it's quite easy to do. But there's a lot of food security and terrorism of food security and stuff. You remember in the 80s, there was some, there started to be these waves of people contaminating food in supermarkets and stuff like that. And you could see it was copycat. It was starting to take off. And then they put a strong blanket on news for reporting anybody that, kind of blackmails a supermarket chain or anything like that, or contaminates food. There's strong agreements and taboos with media reporting that stuff. So it's happening all the time. You just don't hear it, or you hear it very, very rarely.
You've actually reminded me.
You just won't hear about it.
Yeah, you reminded me. I've forgotten all about it. It actually happened here about 2 years ago, where supposedly somebody was putting needles in strawberries. And it was probably just complete bullshit, but it just had this devastating effect for it completely ruined the market for like at least a season. They're basically giving strawberries away to get rid of them in the end. Like for like $1 for however many you wanted. But yeah, now that you mentioned that, it's interesting how quickly that just sort of it popped up and then it just sort of vanished completely, and it was never any comment, never.
But people don't do the maths. I mean, just do the maths. Just put. So how many nutcases are there out there that would contaminate food? So like 1 in 1 million. Well, there are 8 billion people on this planet. So that, that's, what is that? 8,000 people. So it means that there are 8,000 people
8,000,
around the world doing this.
Yeah.
Or more. And it's like you never hear of a single one. Well, how's that? Well, it's because by agreement. Because they realize that as soon as that happens, basically the whole system falls down. So they don't report it. But you see how fragile that system is. That if they just started telling the truth about it, it would collapse. Nobody would eat food out of the supermarket. Nobody would shop in the supermarket if they knew what people were doing behind the scenes. So it's only by lies and secrecy brilliance that can keep this insane
So
industrial
it's
system
really
going.
only
So
in a
it
way
can't
it's
go on like
just
this.
censorship and controlling information that keeps it alive. Otherwise, it would just come down.
There's a lot more going on than people realize. There's a lot of self-censorship, and just by a nod in agreement. It's because all these functionaries agree with the system. Right? They you know, they're kind of these apparatchiks that support the system. Everybody goes into the workplace and does their little to support the system every single day. And what makes the system crumble is when people lose faith in it, which they've already done, right? Lose faith in the system. But the moment the average Joe starts working against it, it doesn't stand a minute. See, that's the key thing, is they have to have it that the slaves don't know their own power. The slaves cannot know, A, that they're slaves, and B, that if they go on strike or basically sabotage the system in relatively small numbers, we're talking 1 in 20, defects from the system, it's over. But the reason why it keeps going is because they keep up the hope. They keep everybody's hope. They keep the story going. So in terms of a psyops for a movement, is if you can destroy their narrative and their hope and this, you know, Elon Musk future and transhumanist utopia, if the average person loses faith in that, goes against that, then the system can't stand more than a day, and so it's a relatively easy dialogue now to have, because their narrative, the techno-utopian narrative and transhuman narrative, no one believes in. There are a few geeks and, you know, people in denial and stuff, and, you know, they just they're using it as a coping mechanism and stuff, but there's nobody that, you know, except on the lunatic fringe and in Silicon Valley and a few crackpots, that actually believe in this utopian system. So I don't think there are many people that believe we're heading for this golden age of progress. I mean, this Steven Pinker is like one of the lunatics, but there are not many. So but they still have the podium. So it's in the narrative war and a psyops. It's important for a movement and an anti-Sith movement to start making people lose hope in this doomed system.
Well, right now, in the US, at least my perception is that the jab mandates, due to the supposed approval of the Pfizer vaccine, is in the forefront, and we shall see um, if people have the guts to resist and not cooperate. I think mandates are coming for, well, for the military, for frontline workers, for health workers, teachers, schools, government workers. And I don't know if people are going to just go along and choose the job over the jab, as they say in one cliche. So it'll be kind of interesting, and it's going to be kind of a test of, are people really believing lies? I don't know.
People will go along with it, but you see, what happens is that it brings out, you see, there a certain number of people, so a small percentage of people, maybe 1 in 1,000, 1 in 500, those kind of numbers, that will be hardened by this. So what happens is the majority go along, but the fallout for the state is very bad. And the reason is because it becomes a point of no return for a number of hardened people. So basically, it means that a small number of radicals get turned. This is like the final straw for them. And those become supremely problematic for the system. So the majority will go along. They need their job. They have learned helplessness. They don't understand their real power. But a few people will start going underground, networking, and saying this has to stop. And I mean, we're talking about a vertical cross section of the society. So it could be billionaires, it could be homeless people, and they, you know, imagine if a billionaire and a homeless person were so radicalized they say this must never happen again, and we're going to take active measures to make sure. It's like, can you imagine what they can do? You need very small numbers. And so that's what the system is doing is creating something that's intolerable and is the last straw for a select number of hard people. And that's the fallout of this. But if you have a look at, you see, the state never cares about the little people, and the state doesn't have high resolution. So they see things in terms of masses of people and large numbers. And they think of that way in controlling people too. So they like to control organizations and stuff like that, but they almost powerless at the resolution of the individual. So lone wolves and stuff come back to bite them. So I can just give you a small example of the myopia of the state compared to how the state's actions influence the individual. So that guy in the Mumbai, the Mumbai attacks on the Mumbai hotel and stuff in India, that was a Pakistani American. And the reason why he did those attacks was because when he was 4 years old, his friend was killed when India bombed his school in Pakistan. Now you see, like, think of it from India's point of view. They don't even remember that fucking incident. But there's one little kid who's thinking, like, fuck India. And he grows up to really fuck India. So 30 years later, he comes back. And then out of the blue, devastates India, completely changes the culture. Now they have basically the same terror, war against terror, paranoid system that we have after 9/11. But you see where, if you look at the origin story of those guys, it comes from the state's forgotten sins. And so this falls under the category on one of the state's thoughtless sins. So they don't see it that way. They just think in terms of herding sheep around, and they don't realize. You see, think about it. Within some of this is there going to be people that might be aggrieved or that wrongly aggrieved or perceived to be aggrieved, that although it's not true. For example, somebody could get a jab and lose their mom or something like that. Lose their mom to a jab. It's just coincidence, but they will forever have it in their mind that it was the mandated jabs that killed them. Now, see, the state doesn't register those people, but those people go on later to cause tremendous trouble for the state. And the state, as it goes and it accumulates sin, it tends to gather those kind of people. So it gathers resentment at that level. So basically the rot starts to set in from the bottom. But you just need one kind of, like, the Montserrats or something, the Black Napoleon in Haiti. You just need one aggrieved slave who holds a grudge for the rest of his life, and he can take down the whole fucking empire. And that's how it goes. History is full with these aggrieved individuals that take down the fucking evil empire. And the evil empire has a very short memory, but the human being has a lifetime memory, and sometimes many lifetimes. And so
Hold it.
These transhumans
Just hold
can't
on.
win. Humans will win.
All right. I got to remember that. We'll have a discussion about that another time. Okay. I won't go into it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to this thing where it's the measurement problem. So the state is digital. These psychopaths are digital. They try to manage us with metrics that are digital, and the world is analog. The world is analog, fractal, and goes to infinite detail. So you can't impose a digital tyranny on an analog reality. And that's what these stupid
Can I
shit's not
just
about.
Thanks for
They're
that.
trying
That's
to, from the
kind of
beginning of agriculture, from the beginning of agriculture, they're trying to squeeze out certainty and predictability from the system. And they can't, because they have a yardstick, and that's as far as they can look, and nature goes down to the plank length.
yeah.
Hugh,
So, yeah.
oh, sorry, who wanted to talk?
No,
I'll
I was
keep
just
quiet for a
going to
second.
think. I was just going to say, yeah, that's hopeful in a sense that the human heart and the human brain is analog, and we have long memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that
Yeah, this
quote.
is just a digital disease. It's temporary. But I mean,
Yeah,
what will be? I don't know if we'll survive, but we must fight it. It's you know, it's, you can't allow, part of being human is resisting. So you can't. That's why I say, if you don't resist, it'll eat your soul. You can't live under this digital tyranny and e-tyranny and transhumanism and the machine and the clock. You can't live under that without it eating out your soul. So it's daily eating you out. It's hollowing you out. And so you you are you see, you must be cognizant of the fact that you are an analog human, and so you have to resist to hang on to your humanity.
yeah, it's
Can I?
oh, you go next,
Sorry,
Gary. You were waiting. You go next.
thanks. I won't take long. I just wanted to say, in regard to what you just said here, is that I think this is where you uh, are being quite amazing, because you've set up a situation. I mean, I find that myself, where the kind of rage of a lifetime is finally being given the possibility to do something because of what you're doing. And it's, you know, that's just incredible, because people can be bottled up and bottled up, and they think, okay,
Well,
yeah,
I haven't done anything yet. I haven't done anything yet. I just been
well, but
like
you know, plainly, plainly,
moving.
but I mean, plainly, we're pointing in a certain direction, and there's some possibility here, you know, uh, and that's a lot better
Yeah.
than a life of.
What? Yeah. I mean, what I hope I'm trying to communicate to you is that, look, if you, it's not worth, operating as the living dead. It's not worth being a cyborg. It's not worth being a transhuman. It's not worth being a half human. It's not worth being a robot serving the machine. You see, what they're going to do is they're going to try and shape us to fit the machine. You see, because the machine can't dominate. What they want is certainty and predictability. And agriculture and the machine and the clock cannot subdue nature. So what they're going to try and do is they're going to try and beat nature into the machines, something that will be compatible with the machine. So everything, that's what the story of Procrustes was all about. Is once you start making a frame, and you have to fit the world into the frame, and so you have to become like Procrustes. You have to chop things off and stretch them out, so that you have to fit this diverse and heterogeneous world into this narrow frame so you can make it predictable. And so it's a ceaseless job, and you're on a hiding to nothing. Everything is going against you while you do this stupid task, but they insist on doing it. But you
Um,
you cannot be a machine, right? You cannot go down that route. It's better to die. So what I hope I'm explaining to you here is, guys, it's better to live as a human and die than it is to sacrifice humanity and live as a machine when you're already dead, but you're just chewing up more life. So if you sell out to the machine, you will be co-opted to eat up more life. You're co-opted by the cancer to chew up more life.
Yeah.
And no, this is a big game now. This game is getting kind of epochal, and we might be at the end of life. We don't know that there's life in other planets. Personally, I don't think there is. So we might be seeing the end of life on this planet. This is a possibility. Personally, I don't think so. I think that there are too many black swans. But war would be good. Basically, a solar flare would be good, and a really, really bad pandemic. All of them could save us. But it's really cool if everybody that listens to me doesn't think it's a disaster. All these people think it's a disaster. It's like, no, you've got to know when to rejoice and why. And so, yeah, it's basically all
can we
those
maybe
things
just
that everybody
finish
else who's part of the machine thinks are a disaster, they're not. Yeah.
I just wanted to bring something back, which might kind of be relevant just now. It's what Divine Beast said a little while ago, which was he brought a little moment of sunshine into the meeting, which is usually so dark. I just want to thank you for that, for just saying that, mentioning the poetry, beauty, and truth in nature. And we talk for a long time, and it's so rarely that somebody during these conversations will even just mention that for a moment to remind us of what it's all actually about. So that was all I wanted, just to bring that back for a moment.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I've always loved wild animals. That's always been my thing. And so I feel like, in a way, the spirit of that led me here. And then I realized, wow, as a child, like feeling like trapped in the school while I was in, it's like, yeah, this shit is totally unnatural. I should be out there with the birds and the wolves and stuff and the deer.
Yeah, it's the chaos. It's life is chaotic, and the beauty of it is it's not lawless, but it's self-similar. It's fractal. So it's not the rigid rational laws and algorithmic process. All these things, the digital things, are all closed-ended. They're dead, and but the living world is fractal and infinite. So in other words, you can run the algorithm, but you can't complete it. So all these pursuits are useless. They're thinking in terms of science, and then they're thinking they can close the book on science. They'll have knowledge about everything, and then everything will be perfect. But it's not true. Science is a moving window. They think it's you're accumulating knowledge, and it's not. You're forgetting shit and losing touch with shit, and as fast as you're accumulating new knowledge. So it's a moving window. And it's infinite. Science is never going to be complete. It always looks like it's going to be complete, but that's another way of saying it's fractal. So the story is infinite, and that's what we celebrate.
Yeah, that's all true. And then also, one of the things I love about poetry is when you read like a really good poem, it's what's not said that gets you.
Yeah, the negative spaces. Yeah. Yeah, that's a deep thing. See, the universe is composed of space. It isn't composed of stuff. So our whole culture is based on stuff, and it's based on materialism, and it's based on accumulation, but we forget that what makes all of it possible is the space between. So the mystery is not what matter is. The mystery is what space is.
Yeah.
Well, on that spaced out note, maybe we should call it a day.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's 2 hours.
Okay.
Thanks, Hugh. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, and another thing I was going to say that I forgot.
All right. Well, we better go out with a pause and just
hang on. We got a last-minute announcement.
So when we're talking, it reminds me of that quote. I can't remember who said it, but he said the struggle against power is the struggle of memory against forgetting. I can't remember the guy who said that though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the state hates memory. Part of the thing, that they're trying to do is trying to erase memory. They're trying to. It's the alien cortex. It needs to be an intermediary, and so to invert everything and to substitute everything, it needs you to, things to go down the memory hole. So it needs you to forget. And part of the thing that's dangerous about wokeism and stuff is it's an effort to forget. So, to redefine history, to cut off ancestors, to cancel historical figures, to erase memory. And that's a very important part of power, to pretend that rewrite history. So, as George Orwell said. Yeah, so, okay, so, all right, let's pause and get in touch with that space. And not space and time, but kairos time, experiential time, not artificial time, not imposed time, but the time that is connected to space is not the time of the clock or chronos, it's the time of experience, kairos. So knowing that, just try and experience the space. In that space and stillness that passes all understanding, we say, Om Paramatmane Namah Iti. All right, everybody.
All right.
Good luck in the week.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Bye, everyone.
Be safe.
Bye. Stay safe.
Bye.